A pleasure to meet all at last, and welcome back to films I should have talked about years ago. As I've stated before, there were tons of movies in 2019 that I managed to watch for free in theaters, mostly due to having a job with the Marcus Theaters Corporation. Throughout 2019, there were so many movies that I have watched, I've hardly kept track of what I've actually put together in video format, specifically to talk about these movies in greater detail to the best of my ability. I've definitely had a lot to work with in 2019, but I was already busy at work with a lot of other things. Now though, let's go ahead and talk a bit about one particular November 2019 release, 21 Bridges. And I'd say it's about time that we do so, because Chadwick Boseman is and always will be the one and only Black Panther. Wakanda forever or not, he still is more significant than any other character in Black Panther, period. And I have made a lot of hate about the MCU, but there has been some exceptions in life, and Black Panther would have to be one of those. My cutoff was after Civil War, but Black Panther did something completely different that it really pulled me in so well. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and talk about another Chadwick Boseman film that he basically did well over a year later. 21 Bridges is in fact a story of Manhattan, of course. Manhattan has in fact a combined total of 21 suspension bridges that lead out of the city itself, alongside 3 rivers and 4 tunnels underground. But what do you think happens whenever a huge crime takes place between 2 different people that occur on the streets of Manhattan itself, from 8th Avenue to 25th Street? Well, you shut down 21 bridges, close the rivers, and block the tunnels. And that's exactly what Boseman himself said. I could never forget that one and only quote, because this is in fact the sort of response that happens when a crime gets too big and it escalates too high that most cannot control. Their one option is to have all methods of escape be cut off from their access. So the criminals cannot even get away by any means. They're trapped within the city. The walls have pretty much formed, and Manhattan is now inside a huge dome. Kind of like what happens in the Simpsons movie, but except it's not a giant piece of glass. It is in fact a series of police cars, boats, and other such transports that are blocking each and every piece. The methods of escape that are possibly easy to exploit. Anything that could be harder to exploit would probably be well left alone, but nobody would ever dare take any chances, considering nowadays a lot of people are very smart. They've seen movies, they've learned all sorts of stuff. They could practically do what the movies have told them, what television has told them, and it almost seems like a really well thought tactic. But here's the real thing that goes on. These 2 criminals are in fact former members of the military that were dishonorably discharged for various reasons. Now, of course, the real significance that shows up here is that apart from the cast, which I see is fairly well laid out with the likes of not just Chadwick Boseman himself, but also with the likes of Sierra Miller and even J.K. Simmons. Yeah. The one and only J. Jonah Jameson from Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy is in this movie. So, I mean, where could I begin with that? Not very sure, but let's just keep on going with the rest of this movie, shall we? The final confrontation happens when one of the criminals is basically dead, and the other one is still alive, but still shooting around and gathering a huge briefcase full of money. He attempts to stow away, but he unfortunately gets caught. Boseman himself tries to reason with them, but it eventually comes down to the other one getting shot. So that's basically what that's all about. There's no arrest made. There's nothing that could possibly be done to really achieve justice. So yeah, death is just way too easy to get away with. You can never truly face justice when you're dead. But here's where the real big twist happens. Sierra Miller herself was actually the partner of Chadwick Boseman in this movie. And her character actually is the one who gets arrested. You see, what happens is that there was some sort of conspiracy that takes place where she had some affiliation with those two. The two criminals that have robbed the city and attempted to escape, they apparently were like pawns to her. So, there you go. That's the one thing that sort of makes the significance happen, the way that there's closure established and there's an actual case closed. So, to summarize, this movie takes a lot of things. It takes 21 bridges, 4 tunnels, 3 rivers, has it all shut down. This movie then allows 2 criminals to be killed off, but then a third criminal surprisingly shows up and eventually just gets caught. So, not much to really kick up here, but my overall rating on this when I first saw this in theaters, or possibly when I gave it a rewatch today, probably might be different, because looking back at it since I first saw it nearly 3 whole years ago, it's probably not very easy to put together. But for my overall rating on it at this very moment, it'll probably only be a somewhat lowly 6.4 out of 10.1. So not a whole lot to say here other than that. But if you want to see more go down on my channel, then make sure that you like, subscribe, comment, follow me on social media, and stay on the Hollywood side.